Hey everyone, thanks for tuning into the Tanks on Full YouTube channel. And today we're doing something a little bit different. This channel is going to be mostly for flying airplanes and learning to fly airplanes, but at the same time, I can't pass up a good airplane museum. So we're going to take a look around the USS Midway Aircraft carrier in San Diego. Luckily, I was in town a few weeks ago for work, and I knew I needed to take a day and go check out this aircraft carrier. So where I'm out of, we're kind of used to tankers and bombers and large planes of that sort. I'm really not used to anything Navy or nautical. So it was very enjoyable to go see the different types of planes that actually get on a real aircraft carrier. The USS Midway, it was commissioned and set sail in about 1945, right after World War II. They began building it during World War II, ended up not really needing it. You can go check out the Wikipedia. They tell you all the wars and all the places that it's been. It's been all over the world. Really fascinating. So they used this boat all the way up until 1992. And a lot of the technology, even in the 90s, it looked pretty dated, but it was really fascinating to go see the ins and outs of this boat. I would say to plan, we were there for about 5 hours. I would say 3 hours is just absolutely zooming through this tour. It's a self-guided tour. I would say anywhere from 4 to 6 hours is pretty safe, and you're probably going to be pretty tired by the end of it. Now, if you're not able to get up and down these ladders, they do have elevators to take you up to the main deck levels, but you can only go so far on each of these levels, as there's just so many ladders and stairwells throughout this entire boat. I was taking this video on a DJI Osmo Nano. It's a wearable camera, so if the angle seems a bit off, just kind of stick with me, and I usually kind of adjust the camera throughout. But just kind of wanted to catch all that content without just focusing on spending my entire time recording video.
Oh, yeah.
If you got any questions or if I say anything wrong, I really don't know a whole lot about these types of aircrafts or aircraft carriers. I just really found it super fascinating to go visit. Something that you just really can't go visit on the day-to-day. So I'll do some voiceovers throughout, and let me know what you think of the video in the comments.
For a plane back then, that's...
And it's like about Mach 2 and
What is the fastest speed here on the deck?
coming down this way, and he's just starting to turn over top. All right? There's doing 200 knots or so. There's no speed. All right, you do what you want, as long as you're at the right speed when you come back. That's just long.
Yeah,
He's gonna climb on top of it.
they turn to give you more power.
You're gonna see every now and then you're
Damn, what a turn.
Watch your head.
Oh, hell yeah. Look at the wiring. Such a small cockpit. Big plane.
There you press that top button. I wonder if that's a real one. I bet it is.
tie downs for your airplanes.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that.
Because they'll keep a bunch of stuff on deck. You need to do that.
Stupid blonde hair.
So we're getting ready to go on a tour of the island. The island, it's a small structure on top of the flight deck, and it really just serves as the command center for all your flight operations. But it does a little bit more than that. They take care of all your navigation as well as your ship controls. So it's going to have what they call the air boss. He's more or less the flight controller, managing all of the planes taking off and landing from the boat. But you also have your navigational system. They show some pretty old technology, your compasses and everything, all the way up to pretty archaic GPS devices that were a big deal back in the 80s and 90s. So there is a small living quarters up there, and they had someone stationed up there the entire time that this boat was on the water. I believe that the captain, he did have a secondary, much larger quarters down in the boat if they were ever at port, but you can hear the guy, he does the guided tour for you, and he explains how all this goes down.
What a cool vantage point.
Yeah, that's cool.
That's the location. The last one?
Okay.
Yeah.
Now I'm in. This is the Twilight Zone. Come on in. Welcome.
Wow.
All right. Wow is right. So, my name's Andy. I'm going to give you this tour. Usually there are 20 people on this tour. It's very special because there's only like, 7 of you. Very good. Okay. So, you're right now in... Do I need the microphone? Can you hear me good?
Pretty good without it.
Okay. Right now you're in primary flight control. This is essentially the aircraft control tower for our 4-acre airport, much like over at Lindbergh Field. So down below on the flight deck, 4 acres. Over here we have the boss. The boss is an 05 ranked naval aviator, commander of Tail Squadron. The boss is the boss up here. The boss is responsible for all of the following things. When you came on board, there was the hangar deck, all 30 to 35 aircraft on the hangar deck, all 30 to 35 aircraft on the flight deck, all 200 to 250 personnel on the flight deck, all aircraft out 5 miles and 2,000 feet up. So, you think you got a tough job? It's probably the toughest job on the carrier out there, being all that responsible for that. So next to him is the mini boss. The mini boss is also a 05 ranked naval aviator, commander of a Tail Squadron. The mini boss is here for about a year, and then he'll move up to the boss position. The boss will move to another billet, so on and so forth. At least that's the way they did it back in the 90s, and we are on a 1990s ship, basically. Here is a flight status board. It's our KIA and POW board right now. In operation, typically this would be swung over here in this position. In front of it would be an 18, 19-year-old enlisted sailor writing backwards so that the boss could read it forwards. So a lot of these status boards,
Crazy.
yeah, because it's easier to train an 18, 19-year-old to write backwards than a 40-year-old to read backwards, for sure. So if you look over here on these boxes, you can lift those up. Hopefully we got the rattlesnake out of there last night. So good. Those are called NATOPS manuals. So those are basically the operations and maintenance manuals for each of the aircraft squadrons on the ship. So at any one time. So you'd have F-18s, EA-6s, E-2 Hawkeyes, even the helicopters as well would be there. Standing in front of them would be junior aviators during flight operations. These would be the Lieutenant JGs and the ensigns. They would be subject matter experts of their aircraft. So they would be in charge of those books during flight operations. They would just stand there. Essentially, Navy aircraft are pretty reliable. So you'd maybe have 5 or 6 of them standing there. They'd be doing this. You looked up from below, you'd see 5 or 6 heads doing this back and forth as they moved to the ocean. They look like flowers in the wind. So their nicknames were the tower flowers, literally. They basically just stood there.
What they watched for?
Pardon?
They were looking for.
They were waiting, and if there was an issue with an aircraft, then they would consult their manual and they would suggest the boss solution. Okay. So over here we have quite a bit of equipment. Over here we have controls for the flight deck aircraft carrier landing lights here. This is the arresting gear engine order telegraph. So there are 3 pendants or 3 wires on the aircraft carrier down below. They would be able to set up here, and we don't have the wires, but you can see if you go down by the F4 Phantom, behind there is a trap talk. I recommend you do that. Also the catapult talk, or the launching talk over here by the A7 Corsair. Very good talk they give. It just depends on if they're down there and ready to talk, so I would check that out. But this equipment, they would set this up so that each aircraft is landed at full weight and always rolls out at 340 feet. So every aircraft that's landed at full weight always runs out at 340 feet. Okay? If they miss the wire, then they have to apply full power, and then they return out to rejoin the circuit and then come back down and land. Of course, when they land, they're going to get a lot of grief from their fellow pilots because they missed the wire and had to come back around. So, all right. So we're going to go out here and go to the left. We're going to go to the chart room. Okay. Follow me, please, and I'll meet you there.
What does it mean to land at full weight?
So let's say. So this is the chart room. This is the workspace of the ship's navigator. The ship's navigator was an 05 ranked naval aviator, commander of a tailhook squadron or a helo squadron. So most of the officers up here were just tailhook squadron commanders. Navigator could be a helo squadron commander as well. So he works here with 2 to 3 quartermasters, plotting the path of the ship into and out of the port.
I am adding one more individual.
As well as open ocean. So if you look around here, you'll see 3 cases. One over here, in this case here, is the San Diego Bay, where the Midway is permanently home ported. Over here is Subic Bay. That was a R&R and refurbishment facility, or a port in the Philippines back in the 90s. Over here is Yokosuka, Japan. Yokosuka, Japan was where the Midway was home ported from 1973 until her decommissioning in 1992. Now, if you look at each chart, you'll see a black line into and out of the port. The job of the navigator and the quartermasters is to make sure that the Midway stays on that black line as much as possible, because that's the safest route into and out of the port. So how did they do that? Well, several ways. One was visual piloting. So they would use what's called an alidade. We're going to see an alidade out here on the left-hand side. An alidade is essentially a magnified compass. So you look through it, you get a compass angle. They would call out a building on the chart. Each chart has buildings, piers, and features on the shore. So they would call out, say I've got building X, it's at 340 degrees compass angle. They would call that down. 3 measurements from that method of piloting. They would draw straight lines from the objects. The intersection of the 3 lines would be the position of the Midway within about 100 feet. So if they couldn't see the shore or the objects, they would bounce the ship's radar off the object. That would return a signal. They would then go ahead and use a compass. You can see a compass over here. You might remember those from geometry, right? Okay, they put that compass on the building. They draw an arc. The intersection of 3 or more arcs is going to give the position of the Midway within about 100 feet. Now, out on the open ocean, there are no objects, are there? But they're the stars. So, they would use one method of navigation on open ocean would be celestial navigation. So they would use a sextant, which is a picture right over here. There's actually a live sextant over there in that case on the right-hand side. Sextant was a early 18th century invention, actually invented simultaneously in 1730 by two different people. So our early navigators did not have that, or the early navigators did not have that. But they did use celestial navigation. Most important was, with celestial navigation, is you had to have, be able to see the horizon, and then you had to be able to see any of the planets, the sun, the moon, or 57 navigatable stars in order to use the sextant. So you would line up that sextant on the horizon, you would get the angle above the horizon for that celestial body. You'd need to note the exact time, and that was done by chronographs over here. We have paper representations of what chronographs are. The ship had 3 of them. You needed backup. They're very expensive, so we don't have any on board. But exact time, celestial body, angle above the horizon, consult a chart book, make the appropriate marks on the open ocean chart. That would give you your position within about 1 to 3 miles. Now, if you look at a map of the world, and you see where Portugal and Spain are, where most of the early explorers came from in the early 15th or mid-15th century, 1450s, when that started. If they had time, they would have sailed straight across, and they would have discovered New England. Because they did not have time, they drifted southwards due to the time and it took to cross the ocean, as well as not having time and not having a star chart book. They drifted south and discovered the West Indies. So, one other thing is the second method on for navigating on open ocean would be they would intercept radio towers called Loran. They would intercept those radio towers, they would get the direction of those towers, and they would triangulate on those. 3 or more would give you the position of the Midway within actually about 100 feet. So better than celestial navigation, of course. So who can guess the last method of navigation on open ocean? 1991, anybody guess? We all carry one in our pocket.
GPS.
GPS, all right, gold star. Whoever said get GPS, yes. I'll direct your attention over here to that box with the screen on it underneath the safe. That is a circa 1991 vintage GPS system. Your phone is probably 10,000 times more powerful than that right now. But back in 1991, that was top secret stuff right there. In 1991, the positioning for the GPS system was about 100 feet. Later on, it became more accurate. In 2000, 2001, when they released the signals to us civilians, the military truncated the signal. So we were only accurate within 10 to 12 feet, plus or minus 10 to 12 feet. Actual military accuracy for their GPS is about 18 inches, or about half a meter. So let's go this way, out to the left. I'll meet you out on the Vulture's Row. Okay. Thank you. To the right. You go left.
That's super cool.
Get lost. All right, we'll go stay up here. That's the Alade.
At the end of the passageway is the yellow train. Just turn left at the train, and those are the 3 ladders that will take you down to the flight deck. So thanks for have a great day.
They'd come up, they would lean over, generally 10 or 12 people here, much like the Tower Flowers. If you looked up, you'd see people leaning over. What do they look like? They look like a bunch of vultures. So this is called Vulture's Row. You could come and request to view flight operations off at Vulture's Row. Let's go ahead and step in here. Alrighty, come on in. So we got the captain's chair and we've got the gator chair. So ma'am, I know you wanted to get pictures in the captain's chair or whatnot. This is the captain's chair. This is the gator chair. So once the navigator is done planning the navigation duties or tasks, the navigator will come up here and he'll sit in that gator chair. See where it says gator there over on the port side. Okay? Over here on the left-hand side, we have sitting there is our captain. Wave, captain. See, now you sat there, you gotta wave. Full speed ahead, awesome. Commanding officer, Captain Our captain or commander is an 06 ranked Naval Aviator Commander of the Tailwhip Squadron. He is here for about 2 years commanding this aircraft carrier. Once he's done, he's going to move up into a more than likely Rear Admiral position if he did a good job. Now up here in this position are 3 officers. One is the officer of the deck. The officer of the deck is responsible for executing the daily aircraft carrier plan. Next to him is the junior officer of the deck. So much like the mini boss in training to become the boss, the junior officer of the deck is in training to become the officer of the deck. Now this is back in 1990s. They may do it a little bit differently nowadays on these carriers you see across the way. Next to them is the junior officer of the watch assisting the navigator navigate the ship. One of these 3 officers is named the conning officer. The conning officer is responsible for issuing commands of bearing and speed change. Not even the captain could do that unless he was the conning officer. I'm going to move back through here. As I pass through here, this is the 1945 original as-built bulkhead for the Midway here. This didn't, 1945, yeah, this didn't exist when she was still built. This navigation bridge was added in the late 40s. Okay, so we have the navigation bridge and the powerhouse. One thing that's interesting here is if you look at these welds, I like to bring this up. This ship was built in 18 months. 40% of the workers on here were women, so about 1,000 women helped build this ship in 18 months. Pretty impressive. So, it takes us about 4 years plus to build a carrier today, but a little bit more complex. So over here we have the skunk board. This is for tracking the surface ships that are unknown here. So skunk, surface ship unknown. Important thing here is line C. CBDR is constant bearing decreasing range. So those ships are on a collision course for the Midway. Midway is going to have to contact them to change their speed or bearing or bearing. Or they're going to have to, the Midway is going to have to take evasive action. Steering the ship is performed here by the helmsman, right here, 18, 19-year-old enlisted sailor. Over here, speed control directions changes from the conning officer are performed here with this engine order telegraph. So when you get a chance, hopefully you will, to go down to the engine room, you're going to see a reciprocal engine order telegraph down there. This is port side, this is starboard side. This goes to all 4 engine rooms. We only have engine room 3 open, because you only really need 1 engine room to prove the point on the museum. The other 3 are decommissioned and closed. But if you get down to engine room 3, you'll see their engine order telegraph. If you take this engine order telegraph, say the conning officer wants to run at full speed, the lee helmsman will rotate this to full. Down below in the engine room, lights will flash, bells will ring, alerting the throttleman that a change of speed is requested. The throttleman will then rotate his engine order telegraph to line up with full, indicating to the conning officer as well as the lee helmsman that they will make it so. Moving forward. Get back to Star Trek. Oh, God. Back here is the quartermaster keeping an eye on all these 18, 19-year-olds. You might notice I'm mentioning a lot of 18, 19-year-old enlisted sailors. They're the ones up here running the ship. The officers are directing them. So, on your way out here, down the stairs, take a look on the left as you go. That's the captain's at-sea cabin. So at sea, he stayed here mostly, so he could get out of here, out of his cabin if he were sleeping, and get to his station. So he slept here, he ate here, he showered here. You can see a shower in the back, and also that was his office when the ship was at sea. Go down to Admiral's Country, you'll see the captain's in-port cabin. Have you been down to Admiral's Country? You saw the very plush queen bed for the captain, whose shower was probably as big as this room here. Nice stateroom. Very rarely did he get to go down there at the in-port cabin, okay, because a lot of the times another commander came on board when they went into port. So on behalf of all the docents, all the volunteers, and all the employees on board the Midway, I want to thank you for coming aboard and enjoying your day here. Thank you very much, and please exit out here and left down the stairs. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You go first. Yeah, you go first because I'm gonna. Yeah, you're gonna catch me. Sorry, sir.
No, you're good.
I'm a bit.
This was cool.
This is cool.
This was one hell of a tour.
How did they do this fast?
I'm a bit tall for this. I'm a little tall for this.
Well, that was worth it.
Heck yeah.
This place is huge. Should have asked her if they keep any submarines on the ship. It's quiet down here.
It's very quiet.
That would mess with you after a while. Oh yeah, that's that one hangar that we were in, I think.
Might be on below deck.
Sounds like a lot. God, this ship is mad.
This is nice. Got the lounge.
Yeah, this looks fancy compared to everything else. Oh, cool. It's like a nice bed. Oh, cool. Look at the kitchen. That's some high quality coffee right there.
It's like Dylan's McDonald's.
I wonder how they invent. Some of these mannequins are creeping me out. Cool. This is cool. God, I hope they have like a recreation room or something. Keep their. I mean, they're just a bunch of young guys. Maybe some ping pong.
Next room that you're going to go into is called the Tactical Flag Command Control Center. It's here that we have the heart of the
Something to keep their sanity.
where I directed the combat operations that started that night. Early in the morning.
Oh,
Do
this
not
is cool.
turn off anything from this panel.
He's a classified of mine from the Naval Academy.
This is
He,
nuts.
he decided he just need one type of helicopter. So he went to the 60. At least that's the last I heard, but what do I know? Yeah, I'm an old surface warfare guy, so you guys, it's funny, years ago I got in trouble with an admiral. Long story, but I was going to command of my ship, my destroyer, and we were making presentations, and I had H2s. You know, H2s. You know,
They said they conducted.
Are there any H2s left?
operations in that room
yeah.
against
Anyway,
Saddam
the
Hussein.
H2.
Really?
My
That's
experience
insane.
with H2s was they broke a lot, and so he wanted me to launch it and send it out over the horizon, and I said, Admiral, the damn helicopter that breaks too easy. I'm not gonna send it over the horizon, and then he's got an in-flight emergency, and he's oh, that's like never gonna happen. I got to the ship and I hit command. First time I launched my helicopter, H2, got up and took off. And next day here is Mayday, Mayday, Mayday. And he's coming back real fast. So I don't like H2s. 60s, you're okay. So where are you guys stationed?
Right here on North Island.
Okay. Well, you know what? Limiting the
flying airboats on active duty. So your parents and your siblings, if you have siblings, they're on that. That's the 1%. And it's great to see that's a record. I mean, I remember after the first Gulf War started in 1991, which is what we're looking at here. Cashier. So what do you ever say things? It was like, wow. You know, people actually realize what the heck we do. So, thanks for your service. Be safe out there. Yeah, take it easy. Keep those helicopters flying. So you guys, Beth. What are those seats here? The chairs. Yeah. They're animals, but they all work for this guy. So they sent it out to these guys, and the plane was so complex in 1991 that the communication circuits, and I don't know what you guys are familiar with in that, but the communication circuits, it wasn't digitized, most of it was analog, so the information went out, but it was way too much information for the communications to handle. So what they did was they built a balance here. That there's some important documents made there. Message window.
Put tubes in these. And they
Cool. Please don't tell me people would jump in there and actually go in there. That looks like an air duct or something. Talk about claustrophobia. There's your claustrophobia. This one's good. Smells like a bathroom. Wow, one look right over there and you can just see everywhere on the ship, like just how many little small holes and rooms and everything.
Massing near the border. Arab presidents have been trying this month to defuse this building crisis. In Washington, the White House is condemning the invasion, calling for Iraq to withdraw its forces immediately.
This is cool. Look at the floor. Liberation of Kuwait. And all the nations responsible for freeing it.
When aviators return from their missions, they bring back fresh information based on what they've experienced. And that fuels the next round.
£4,750 of laundry every day. Can you imagine how hot and sweaty this would be?
It'd be terrible.
I mean,
Dry clean.
it would be like, it would have to be like 89 degrees. Forget the boiler. I can't imagine some of the lives on this ship. I hated it when chicken was on the menu. Jeez. Surely we have to be somewhat near the bottom. At least somewhere near it. What time we start this tour? 10?
10:15.
It's 1:45.
I know.
Holy crap.
Crazy.
That's 4 hours, and we haven't even been reading. Oh no. Touch the object. Whoa. I know this is your thing right here.
So to wrap up this video, it's more of just a slideshow. This is the point that my camera died, and I just didn't really have a good way of taking lots of videos. My iPhone was also about to die, so I was using the last few percent just to take pictures. The last portion that we went through is the crew quarters. So this is going to be the crew that just operates this ship. There was just thousands of beds. Everywhere you look, they would put a bed. You'd be walking down the hall and they'd have a half dozen beds just up against the wall. So So many crew members on the ship. This was a self-sustaining city, more or less. So through these pictures, you'll notice there's actually a surgery center, and it wasn't just like one surgical room. I think they had 4 or 5. So if you had multiple sailors get injured, maybe in an accident, they could actually do surgery right there on the boat. This is where you got your haircut. Large dental office. They had a large post office. So again, very self-sustaining floating city. When they come to port, I forget how many thousands of pounds of food that they would get. I believe it took almost like 4 days every time they'd resupply, because as they're out on the sea, they're not coming to a port all the time to get more food and more supplies. So when they would come to port, they would be loading up just tens of thousands of pounds of food and supplies to sustain these sailors. So I hope you enjoyed this. I wish I had a little bit more video. Just check out the rest of these pictures. I don't really have too many answers. I don't know a whole lot about the naval aspects of it, but maybe if you posted a question, someone else can chime in. But I really enjoyed this. If you have 6 hours and you're in San Diego, totally go. You're going to love it. There is so much more than this video even showed you. So thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you next time.